Hello and welcome to our third edition of Beating Cardiac Odds. It's where we talk about everything cardiac related and also just beating the odds. We talk with survivors, co-survivors, first responders, paramedics, professional like doctors, people that are in the industry. And today we have a rock and roll star. Okay, Sam Clark is with me. Um, Tell me, okay, first of all, we were talking before we started rolling, and I started the list of titles that you have. They include a mom, you're a wife, you're a paramedic, you're an instructor, you're a volunteer,
Yes.
you're a business owner. You're also a not only just a dog owner, but you're also owner of chickens and ducks and you know what I forgot is you a couple weeks ago when we talked your the Miss America thing.
So I'm a pageant mom.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Pageant mom.
Okay, why don't
Yeah.
we take that and you just tell me about yourself? Go ahead and go tell me about you.
So I am about to be 41. I live in New Hampshire with what used to be my daughter. She's now at college, and my husband, and we moved my mother in with us because we always like a challenge. Um, but I've been a paramedic for 16 years. I was an EMT early 20s. I kind of figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I decided I never wanted to, and I went into EMS. Um, and then I became your actual typical millennial. I got a small hobby farm. I think at the empty nest, we saw it coming for the last 2 years. So we decided to get chickens and ducks because that's what everybody my age is doing, right? And then 3 years ago, I got my instructor coordinator so I could teach EMT classes because I'm getting closer to 40. I'm recognizing that I'm getting older. I'm still working full time on an ambulance. I do two 24-hour shifts a week, but I'm also at the director of our education program at Beauport Ambulance now. So we run AHA curriculum, so CPR, PALS, PAIRS, and ACLS, but we also teach full EMT basic programs. We run about 3 a year. Oh, Apollo, dog owner. I swear to God, dog owner. Um, which is kind of great because we've been doing it now for 2 years. We're going into 2.5. We're starting our sixth EMT class. We started it last Wednesday, actually. And so far we have produced, let me think, 25, I think, EMT students, a lot of which still now work for Beauport, which is fantastic because we know what we're getting when we hire them. And we are teaching them to be functional EMTs, not just to pass a test. So that's the ultimate goal, especially as a company owned, like service owned education system, is we want to make sure they're coming out fully functional for those trucks. So,
So
and we
we
just took over two
so
more
we
911 contracts.
that's how we connected is through Beauport. I got that right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so through Beauport, but Beauport's not just one little entity. Beauport does a lot of things. All right, help me. I'm still trying to figure out all the things that Beauport does.
So, Beauport was actually started in 1984 by Rocky Morris. It started off with a bunch of wheelchair vans. We still have wheelchair van services. His son bought him out. John was 19 when he purchased the company from his dad, and he's since expanded it from two or three wheelchair vans to a fleet of wheelchair vans, some transport buses similar to like Cape Ann Transportation. Um, and we also now have uh, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven ALS staffed ambulances 24 hours a day. So that's a paramedic level or higher. And we have something like, I think, a total of 18 BLS trucks in the entire company. That's Boston Division all the way up through North Shore. So he also has a limousine service that he does on the side. So he does like the party buses and weddings. We also have the education division, which we started 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago. It feels like 2 weeks. um, we started the education side, so we've branched into teaching the next generation of EMTs. And it kind of started with John. And I know it sounds crazy. Rocky was the establishment. Like he got everything started, and this 19-year-old kid took over and said, "All right, I want to make this bigger, better," and expanded it. So John is actually younger than I am and owns the whole company. And he's making it work. Like today, we just participated at Gordon Conwell. It's a theological seminary with NERIC, and an active shooter drill. So Matt Coppinger, who is our ALS coordinator, was there, and I spent all morning moulaging 20 Mass State Trooper cadets who volunteered to be shooter victims. So it's been a wild ride. Like when I first started at Beauport, it was 60 people. That included wheelchair van drivers, EMTs, and 9 paramedics. We're up to like 20 something medics now and 178 EMTs. So
Wow. Well, it seems to
that's
fit
in
your
5 years.
personality.
Extensive growth, rapid growth, and we're a much younger generation of employees. When I first started, some of our medics were 65 and plus. We have one holdout, Gary Lindbergh. He is a retired Gloucester Fire. He still works 72 hours a week on an ambulance with us, and he's I think 66. The rest of they've all retired. So the average age of our paramedics is around 35 to 40, which is a good thing, right? Because change is good, progression is good. But we need those young people in. We need to get them started because, especially post COVID, we're in I'm trying to think of the exact words here. There are so few paramedics in the country that everybody's feeling the understaffing problem. So we went from double medic trucks only in Massachusetts till about 7 or 8 years ago when they made a shift to do what we call PB trucks. In order to qualify as an ALS truck in Mass 10 years ago, you had to have 2 paramedics on the truck. I'm from Maine originally. Like I had an 80-year-old partner with a CEVO card and a CPR card that was my partner. So when we made that transition almost a decade ago, it wasn't a big change for me. It's a huge change for a lot of our older medics who are used to having that safety net, that extra set of ALS hands. Now I strictly work PV trucks and I'm comfortable with it. It's a good thing. We have more ALS ambulances on the road because we were able to break those 2 paramedics up.
So this video and what we're doing, our focus for the immediate future is Boston and the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But we'll have a national audience here. We'll have this is not just for only Massachusetts area in the Northeast, but talk to some of the younger people that are listening and why should you become a paramedic? Let's try to solve a little bit of that if we can.
So funny story. This was never on my bingo card when I was 18 years old. When I was 18, I was going to go to college and get a 4-year degree in criminal justice. And I was going to be a cop, and then I was going to become a sheriff, and then I was going to become an FBI agent. That ultimately was my goal. Sometimes you fall into what you love by accident. And that's what happened with me. I needed to fill 6 hours of a block up because I wasn't old enough to take the 100 hours course. And I took an EMT class. And then I dropped out of college.
Wow.
Yeah, I left.
You knew exactly as soon as you started that class. That was it.
I did. Not me
awesome.
trying to talk those Mass State cadets, by the way, out of it. Today, are you sure you want to do this? Nobody's ever happy to see you. People are happy to see EMTs. I'm just saying. And it's funny because for the longest time, EMS was a stepping stone in healthcare. Especially for nurse practitioners, physicians, people who wanted to go to PA school, because you need those patient contacts, but you also need to be seen that you can make clinical decisions on your own and act in emergent situations. And this is the easiest way to do that. I will tell you that in the 20 years that I've been in EMS, I've written probably 10 recommendations for kids who are going past the EMS field. Currently, one of them is at UMass Amherst, not Amherst, sorry, UMass Worcester Medical School. I have 2 people that I wrote recommendations for who have finished PA school. I have one that's in PA school in upstate New York, one that just finished nursing school, and we have another one who's at the medical school in Dartmouth.
Nice.
And we get it's a stepping stone, but it's always something you can fall back on too. I will tell you that high schools hate it when I come in to talk to their kids. All right, they hate it. They hate it because this is going to sound incredibly political, but it's really not. We keep pushing these 4-year colleges on kids, right? You have to get a good college degree. You have to get a good education in order to get a good job, in order to make a living. What we need right now are trades. And technically EMS is a trade.
Yeah.
Massachusetts is doing great things, though. They're making trade school, or sorry, not trades. That's an old term for it. It's a technical college or like community college. If you don't have a degree and you live in Massachusetts, you can go to community college or tech school for free, which includes paramedic programs, EMT programs, fire science, plumbing.
And
Um,
I never thought about that, that, that kind of training fell under that umbrella, but you're absolutely right. I mean, this is Mike Rowe's dirty jobs, this
yes,
is, and there is a demand for it.
and there is, and that's the cool part about it. We've survived a lot of, and by we, I mean EMS, have survived a lot of legislation that would have cut funding, that would have cut access to public safety. Um, I remember, like I said, I'm from Northern Maine, and Maine, I want to say 15, 16 years ago, had this bill up called TABOR, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, where the first thing that got cut was public safety. But people don't seem to understand that technically public safety isn't just law enforcement. It's not just firefighting. It's also your emergency medical services. And in a state like Maine, you can't afford to cut anymore, especially not the emergency health services. I grew up, if you are familiar with Maine at all, I grew up in Calais, Maine, but I didn't actually live in Calais. I lived in a tinier town in between Calais and Eastport called Robbinston. That for the longest time we had volunteer EMTs. Somebody would get up in their pajamas in the middle of the night, get the ambulance, and drive to your home. I haven't been back in probably almost a decade, but when I was still going up there to visit family, the closest ambulance to the town that I grew up in was 17 minutes away, and that's if it's fully staffed. So you're seeing a lot of people just not get the help that they need in a timely fashion. That's why the cutting this funding, it's incredibly dangerous for the entire country, not company. The hard part too is like places like Massachusetts. You guys are very fortunate there. I live in New Hampshire. The town that I live in, our ambulance are volunteers still. They're
Right.
paid volunteers. They get a stipend for coming in off the clock. But we're looking at greater than 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes for a response. It's because the towns don't want to pay the money in. I get it. I'm a taxpayer. I don't want to pay more. I absolutely get that. Um, but this is something that you can take with you. Say you like to hike. All right.
Yep.
What is going to happen if you're out in the woods and now you're injured or somebody you're with is injured? You can help them. You can stabilize them until help gets to you.
Right.
We have some amazing programs in Massachusetts. Beauport Ambulance, we have an umbrella program at Beverly High School. So
Mhm.
high school seniors at Beverly High School can take an EMT class as part of their curriculum. They get credits towards graduation. And when they come out, they have a career. They can become part of their the emergency response on their college campus if they choose to go. They can go right into the workforce. And Beauport's been fantastic. Like we're paying these brand new high school kids with zero experience $25 an hour. Like when I first started as a medic, I was making $12.80 an hour, and that was to
Yep.
be a paramedic and a firefighter. And that was like the highest pay in the state at the time.
Yep. Yep.
So, and we're hoping that we can encourage more people. I will tell you that the class we started last week is the largest class that we've had. We have 11 people, and that's
Good.
about average. Yeah,
But you see an upward trajectory.
I do. To the point where we're actually putting more of our current employees in through what we call instructor coordinator classes so that they
Right.
can become ICs. We're thinking about if we keep getting the interest like we're getting, running concurrent classes. So we're not just doing 3 a year, we could do up to 6 a year.
Got it.
So,
Okay. I can talk forever about all this,
yeah.
but this podcast is about beating the cardiac odds. And so I want to put your paramedic hat on. Tell me about how many, and if you've got 100 sudden cardiac arrest patients, you've got 100 different scenarios. But
Yeah.
give me, and I'll dig in a little deeper, but give me kind of what typically happens during a sudden cardiac arrest call.
Actually, we had one last Friday.
Okay.
I will give you the play-by-play for that one so you can understand how important timing is. We were sent out to a area that we covered for a gentleman who may have had a stroke in a car. We get there. It was not a car accident. The car was parked in a driveway. This gentleman still had a radial pulse and organized breathing, but he was completely unresponsive. He's a diabetic, so we checked his blood glucose, and in the time that it took to check his blood glucose, he stopped breathing, lost his pulses. We were able to get him out of the car, get him to the ground, start chest compressions, and put an AED on him. And he was in what we call a pulseless electrical activity. Legitimately got him on our monitor so we could keep an eye on it, continued CPR. I got IV access on him and put an airway in. We're talking less than 45 seconds from the time that we moved him out of the vehicle. I am now starting an IV, pushing the first round of cardiac meds, and then moving to the airway because we only have one paramedic on scene.
Mm.
And the advanced airways, that's up to us. The IVs, that's up to us. The drugs, it's up to us. I have some great BLS partners, which is fantastic. But all of that invasive stuff that falls onto our medic shoulders. We were able to do 8 minutes of continuous compressions and ventilations every 5 to 6 seconds because of that advanced airway. I did have to call for a second set of hands because it was a very large patient, and getting
So
him
so you're doing the compressions with your own hands.
Well, no, so we had some amazing law enforcement officers on this scene who were doing the compressions for us. They were swapping out on their own every 2 minutes. They were fantastic.
But you don't have the
But
Lucas machine. You don't have the Lucas machine though.
we do, but according to our state protocols, the first 8 minutes of a cardiac arrest should be done with manual CPR because there's
Oh.
actually no scientific proof that those devices are any better or worse than manual compressions.
Huh. Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I love the Lucas because
Yeah.
it means that I am able to just do my ALS stuff once we get it onto the patient. But I absolutely understand that need for the manual CPR. It's that guaranteed good compressions with a good chest depth. And also, if he had been in a shockable rhythm, we could stop immediately.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that this call went very, very well considering the second truck from Gloucester showed up and went to help us move the patient. As we moved him, that's when we were sliding the Lucas underneath of him and putting it over the top. And before we went to start it, we did a rhythm check, and this gentleman was back in an organized sinus rhythm. So we did a pulse check. He had a matching pulse. Perfect. Got him
Right.
loaded into the truck, started transporting, and I watched his rhythm do something weird. I checked a pulse. He lost his pulse. Go back into CPR. We pushed some more medication. At no point did he require an AED or a defibrillation, but we got ROSC on this gentleman 3 times during transport. Ultimately, it was not a great outcome, but it would have been much worse if he hadn't been found right away, if he didn't go into cardiac arrest in front of us. And honestly, we're the people you want to go into cardiac arrest in front of.
Sure.
You know, we have all of the tools. But I will tell you, if he had been in cardiac arrest before we got there and he was still sitting in a car and nobody was doing compressions, there would have been gotten a rhythm back at all. So ultimately, because he was still alive when we got there, we were able to try to make every good faith effort. The problem is that they didn't recognize that he was in absolute distress. He was in dire need, and they left him sitting in the car to call us, which is, I get it, it's your loved one. And sometimes you don't know what to do, even if you know what to do, which is part of why I teach CPR classes. Like I just did 2 at the local banks in the last 2 weeks because they have an AED in one bank, not in the other, but nobody knew how to do chest compressions or how to use it.
Okay. I want you to paint 2 pictures, 2 categories. One, both of them are sudden cardiac arrest situations. One, you arrive at the scene and you've got a lifeless body and you've got people standing around looking at the lifeless body. And then you have a similar situation, but they've already started CPR. They have the AED has been applied and it's been used. So tell me, I want you to describe, because what I'm trying to do is get people to do something. And what happens if you don't? What happens if you do?
I can guarantee you that you will have a less likely chance of return of spontaneous circulation in a patient who is not getting CPR, is not getting an AED used. Your body cannot survive without blood pumping. It needs that oxygen. It needs that sugar to float around. And the biggest thing we're trying to preserve isn't the heart, right? It's the brain, because
Right.
without your brain receiving that oxygen, that blood, that sugar, you're not going to have survival. And if you do get anything back, it's not going to be the person that went into cardiac arrest. They will not ever be the same neurologically, emotionally, or mentally. That the brain is so sensitive to that lack of oxygen, to that lack of sugar, or that lack of blood flow, that, I mean, if you take a look at me, if I'm being really honest, I had a left frontal lobe injury from an ambulance accident. And now there's a small part of my left frontal lobe that's a little bit darker and electrically speaking than the rest of my brain. And that's all because of a contusion, blood in the brain. So imagine what will happen if your whole brain goes without that blood supply. for greater than 7 minutes. Because after 7 minutes, you're looking at full significant neurological death.
Right.
All it takes is a good compressions, right?
Yep.
Good compressions to move that blood up to your head. And if you're in a heart rate like VTAC or VFib that could be defibrillated, you don't even need compressions that long, maybe
Right.
2 minutes worth. And
Right.
if you can replace that apparent rhythm with a normal sinus rhythm, you don't have to do compressions anymore after you get it back. Once you get a pulse back, the hard work is done and you're preserving that neurological tissue.
So Julie, my wife, had it. Excuse me. Went down the wrong way. Um, um, my wife had a sudden cardiac arrest at our local high school. She collapsed. No warning or anything. She's in good shape and all. 911 was called immediately. The CPR was being started within 45 seconds, and she got the first of 2 shocks within 2 minutes. And
Perfect.
it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
It cannot get any better than that. And no neurological issues or cognitive issues that we have been able. She's just fine. She's actually now an American Airlines flight attendant, so she's just out there rocking and rolling. But it's because they took that action. And I remember talking to the paramedic first on the scene, and I was like, that's because it was my first experience. Hell, I didn't know the difference between a cardiac arrest and a heart attack before hers. And now that's why we're doing what we're doing,
Yeah.
because I really understand. And he described how he would go to a scene and there would be a lifeless body and a handful of people standing around looking at the lifeless body.
Yeah, like deer in a headlight, which
There's
is
no,
wild to me because we've done these huge like national education push with advertisements and free classes, and the fact that I'm 41 years old. I've known how to do CPR since I was in high school. It was part of our health curriculum, and you had to take health.
yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, my daughter took a health class, but they didn't teach CPR. They taught a lot of sex ed. I mean, I'll take that as a parent, but
Yep.
I mean, the top of our list should be educating everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've had Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops who've come to Beauport and asked for first aid and CPR classes, even for these like 7 and 8 year old kids who body strength wise may not be able to do a full compression, but they know exactly what they should be doing. Apollo, stop. Oh dear.
Oh, Apollo's trying to be cute.
No, he's not being cute right now. He's a little dramatic when he wants to go outside, and he's doing as much as possible to be as dramatic as possible.
That's right.
Um,
So tell
but
me, yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I mean, we don't teach 7-year-olds how to use an AED mainly because the concept of it, I don't think they'll understand fully. Um, but we do teach these young Boy Scout troops and Girl Scout troops how to do basic first aid, how to stop the bleed, how to do CPR, because you never know. It could be their grandmother, it could be their mom or dad that they have to do this on. And having that basic knowledge, all right, that muscle memory will get them at least part of the way there. It's better to do something than it is to do nothing. Um, we've had cops who are like, I couldn't find a pulse, so I just started CPR. And the patient didn't necessarily need it, but too many times I've said to them, I would rather have you do something than nothing.
So do this clarification for me, please. If they're not breathing, is that essentially a sign that they don't have a heart, that they need compressions?
Not necessarily. So, in the giant opioid crisis that this country's been in for at least 15 years, you can actually have your central nervous system depleted or depressed to the point where you stop breathing, but still will have a heartbeat or a pulse for up to 2 to 3 minutes. Ultimately, if you don't do rescue breaths for that patient, their heart will stop because it's oxygen deprived. Now, that being said, do I encourage you to do mouth to mouth on a perfect stranger? Absolutely not. I don't encourage that, mainly because, biologically speaking, there's gross things in there. Do I encourage you to use a pocket mask that you can get for $5 on Amazon? 110%. If it's your loved one, please put your mouth on them. You love them, right? Give them those rescue breaths. But ultimately recognize that if they're not breathing, eventually they won't have a pulse either.
Got it. I'm trying to dumb it down as much as possible so that, if they're not breathing, they probably don't have a pulse or are getting close to it. Is
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody's not breathing, if they don't have a pulse, if they do have a pulse now, they won't for long, bottom line.
it'll be one, two
Because
minutes kind of thing.
if that sometimes, like I
Oh
said,
wow. Okay.
the opioid crisis has taught us a whole lot about respiratory arrest and its relation to cardiac arrest. So that, you know, heroin, morphine, all of those, even fentanyl,
Mm.
um, depresses that central nervous system to the point where your body says, no, you don't need to breathe. It's okay. And it shuts it down. Your heart will continue on for a minute to 2 minutes, but then it will run out of that functional oxygen it had before you stop breathing.
Okay. Tell me, and talk to the to the general population like me. I like to think I'm relatively smart, but I didn't know the difference between the heart attack and a cardiac arrest before Julie's cardiac arrest. Um, talk to me before that on what should I do? What should I know if I see someone collapse? And super
Number
simple.
one,
Go ahead.
yeah, call 911.
That
Start there. Everybody has a cell phone these days. Call 911. If you see someone collapse, the first thing you want to do is open their airway, the head tilt chin lift, because sometimes it could be something as simple as they choked or they just went into respiratory distress or respiratory arrest. The next thing you're going to do is look for a carotid pulse. We don't look for wrist pulses. That's the first thing we lose when our body starts to shunt all of the blood back to preserve our brain. We feel for the carotid. And it's pretty simple to find. You find the bend in your jaw and just go an inch or two below into the neck and push gently. Uh, if the patient's not breathing, assume that they are not going to have a pulse. You're going to find that center of their chest. We say nipple line. I mean anatomical nipple line. Sometimes things move. But you're going to go for that lower third of the sternum. Make two hands, and you're going to start doing compressions. And even if you don't want to do respirations, hands only compressions is the biggest thing you can do. It's going to keep that blood circulating for as long as you're pumping. And if you watch somebody go into cardiac arrest, chances are they have up to 7 minutes of functional oxygen still stored in their blood.
excellent. Okay, then go to the next one is the AED.
AED, I love those things. I really do. So they are automated
Me
external
too.
defibrillators. Yeah, and I think you and I had this conversation in our first like Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest thing working against healthcare and EMS when it comes to AED use is stuff like Grey's Anatomy. And do not get me wrong, I love the drama. I do. I'm there for it. But the medicine is so wrong. AEDs only shock two rhythms. All right. So defib, so ventricular fibrillation, where the bottom part of the heart is just quivering, or VTAC, where it's actually an organized, very strong pulsation, but it's not sustainable to life. Eventually, you will just not be pumping enough blood because it's going too fast. An AED will eliminate that abnormal cardiac rhythm and hopefully restore it to a normal sinus. And look, it's frightening. All right. It's very scary. When you defibrillate somebody, the body jumps. It's an electrical impulse moving through the whole chest. You didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't hurt them. If anything, you're going to help them. And I think making sure people understand that and understanding that it may say no shock advised, but that doesn't mean that there's an organized rhythm. It just means that it's not shocking.
So so not only am I a co-survivor with my wife being a survivor, her spouse means I'm a co-survivor. So, but I'm also a first responder. I don't know if I told you this, but um, I play hockey, old man hockey, beer league, and after the team the game that was out after hours, and I was in the locker room, someone came in and said someone's having a heart attack. So anyway, they all point to me, and I run out there, and there's his lifeless body was, laying on the ice, and so I jump in there, and I'm only bringing this up. There's a lot of things I can say about that whole situation, but the one thing to your point is, so you had the pads that went, here and here. So we took all this stuff off, and the pad was here. And when I first got there, the pads, the guys that were, I was like 2.5 minutes after he collapsed. They had the wherewithal to start CPR and put the pads on, but the pad was here, and it said, analyzing heart rhythm, and it said no shock advised, continued CPR. So what it was the guy had a freaking hairy chest he was like an Italian, and it was
Hockey player.
hockey
You
player.
guys develop fur. You guys develop fur so you can play hockey.
And
Um,
it was floating around on his chest, and plus he
yeah,
was sweaty, and it was everything was going against it. There was no clean skin to pad to contact, and so that's when I got the razor. I was doing this little razor thing, and I was cut. There was another person that came in, and we traded out. I cut up her knuckles with the razor blade, uh, and then the paramedics took over, and they took care of him. He survived. He does have some issues, but he did survive. But to the point, it didn't shock it, because I don't my
I'm not sure if it had good
I
contact.
don't
You
think it
don't know
had
if it
good
was actually
contact.
sensing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just
Well, and that's the hard
yeah. Go ahead.
that's the hard part with defib pads, especially. I'm a huge fan of if someone has an AED, they need to have two sets of pads for a couple of reasons. You saw what happened with the razor blade, right? Are they going to care if you cut up their chest a little bit? Absolutely not. But let me tell you what's a lot quicker. Take one set of pads, stick them on that hairy chest, push them down as hard as you can, and wax it off.
Tear them
And then
off.
use this. Yeah. First of all, if you're using AED pads, it's not gonna harm them,
No, not
right?
at all.
They don't know.
And someone
Um,
mentioned that to me afterwards, because we're at this facility actually has 2 sheets of ice. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 AEDs in the
you
entire
have six
building.
pads.
We had six
Yeah.
sets of pads and probably 2 for each, whatever. I didn't even think about it. I don't, I wish I would have thought differently, but I did the best I could in the
Right.
situation. And but
Well,
yeah,
and that's why like I encourage people to come to EMTs and to fire stations for AHA training, especially for CPR training, especially if you're going to have a business with lots of people coming in and out, with lots of employees, because we'll teach you that.
mhm,
We'll teach you it's okay to have an extra set of pads. Yeah, it does get pricey, but what's $35 when it comes to someone's life?
right, yeah,
It ultimately.
yeah. So yes, I love AEDs too, and that's why we're on a mission to map AEDs so that they are available for your 911 system, for your 911 operators, and ultimately on your phone. I mean, that was the original thing that where it came into my brain is like I need to know where the AEDs are located, because why is it that I can say, "Hey Google, hey Siri, where's the closest Starbucks?" but I can't do that with an AED. That's what started this whole thing.
Exactly.
And so
Well,
we've done so much, now we've got to populate the map with our database partner. We got to populate the map with the AEDs that are out there. Go ahead.
well, and that's part of the whole thing, right? People, if they are given the information, are more likely to act. If they
That's a
don't know where the closest AED is, they're not going to find one. They're not going to go look for one because the emergency is happening in front of them. They might do CPR, but they're not going to go grab the closest AED because they don't have the information. So I think it's a shame that it's going to sound horrible as a small business owner myself. Luckily, I don't have a storefront. Mine is like the home kitchen type of business. But if you're going to have a business with a storefront where people are coming in, you should be required to have an AED behind the register, in my
no
opinion.
crap. I'm not going to use
Yeah.
a stronger word than that, a lot stronger. And this is like, it's, why do they, so do you know, okay, you work in the firefighter and paramedic world.
Mhm.
I can't remember what the stat is. So you have an AED on the wall and you have a fire extinguisher on the wall, not including like a restaurant because fire, stoves and all that, but a regular
Yeah.
business. How often is a fire extinguisher used compared to an AED?
Well,
I did hear a
I
stat, and
will.
I just want to know what you
I think you're more likely to use a fire extinguisher than an AED for a
really,
couple of reasons. Yeah, I mean,
even if you're a
you got to think of this
CPA
much more.
lawyer office kind of thing.
Well, I mean, people smoking in the bathroom, you know.
That's a 1982 song, isn't it?
Right? Well, I mean, if you look at the instances of fires, right, of people using, especially in the kitchen setting, especially with like offices, a CPA office has an employee kitchen with a toaster and a
Yeah, that's
microwave.
good. Yep,
Um,
yep.
I think if you look at instances of small contained fires that are put out with a fire extinguisher versus 450,000 cardiac arrests in the United States, about a yearly average, right?
Right,
What are the chances of someone going into cardiac arrest near one?
right, right.
Like fires are always going to happen where people are, but I'm going to tell you a lot of people go into cardiac arrest in their own residences alone with nobody to witness it.
Right.
Same with house fires though too, really. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the car accident thing where you're more likely to have a car accident within 20 miles of home.
So you
Well, how
moved.
many people are driving more than 20 miles every day to go to work?
Yeah.
Besides me, but
I just heard a statistic between those two, and I just wanted to get your perspective since you've got knowledge on both sides of that equation.
I will tell you, I accidentally used one inside of an ambulance once, and it was not on purpose.
Would
The
you hit
safety
it or
tag
something,
fell
bumped
out.
it or something?
I threw my lunchbox back, and it landed directly on the handle and filled my entire ambulance with powder. Yep.
Yeah.
Me and
Okay.
my partner just stared at each other like, what just happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Got this cleanup duty. Okay. Okay. Again, I could talk. I could talk forever with you about all this stuff. Anything more on cardiac arrest? Knowing that, or I think we covered your perspective, that you need to do something, take action, call 911, start CPR. It's okay to break ribs. Oh, here's one. Okay, I want to get your perspective on this. One more thing. When I did CPR on the guy at the on the sheet on the hockey rink, um, I'm doing compressions. I'm going. I know I'm going pretty deep, and I actually saw a video of it. I was going pretty deep. I could feel and hear his ribs break, which is a good thing. I know, I knew I was doing it right. But one thing I could feel, and tell me if I'm feeling what I think I'm feeling, I could feel the recoil when I was coming up. What?
Yeah. So, technically, your rib cage is a solid formation, because it's got the bones in there, but it's also held together with cartilage. Cartilage it does have give to it, but it also wants to rebound into its natural position even after the bones are fractured because it helps maintain them in place. So that rebound you're feeling, that is the natural occurring rebound of the cartilage that is with the intercostal spaces and ribs.
So with that
Yeah.
recoil, was that was I could maybe it was just how I remembered it or what help me re, help me understand what was really happening with what I think what was happening. When I was lifting up and it was recoiling, I could feel the blood go through, or was I in a different
So
state?
it depends on the size of the patient, of course, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I've had patients who we couldn't find a pulse radially or on the neck, but you could see their aorta in their lower abdomen just ticking away. You could see it because they're small. It wouldn't be wild to think that you could feel blood flowing back. So the aorta runs up over the heart and then down through the center of the abdomen. The inferior vena cava runs a parallel line, and that's what's bringing the blood back to the body. And it's a very large vessel. So chances are, I mean, my paramedic instructor used to say the heart doesn't suck, right? But it's the change in pressure.
Right.
So as you're compressing and then releasing that pressure, you probably could feel something moving back, whether it's blood or the
My
or that
adrenaline. It may have been my adrenaline,
uh,
or
but you
I
also know
just
how it works. You know
and it,
how the body works.
right.
So
I could just feel this something happening when I not when I was pushing down, but actually more when I was releasing, and I could. It's like this
it's
suction.
a
This
change in the intrathoracic cavity pressure. That's what allows that blood to come back to the heart. Like I said, the heart doesn't suck, but when you push down, you're creating an increase of pressure to push blood out. And then when it's empty, it's trying to draw blood back in through that inferior vena cava. It's the same thing with like pregnant women who go into cardiac arrest. In order to guarantee that we're getting that return, you actually have to do uterine displacement. You have to pull that baby to the left to allow blood to flow back through that inferior vena cava back to the heart. Because if you think about it, I mean, you have children.
yes,
Remember when your wife was very, very pregnant, she laid down and she would get really dizzy and lightheaded?
sure.
It's because the blood wasn't returning because the baby was sitting on her vena cava.
Holy cow, that's a whole situation I never even thought about. Man,
Oh, you look,
dude,
when we tell people that for the first time, they look at us like we're crazy.
man, I never thought about chest compressions and excuse me using an AED on a very pregnant or a pregnant woman.
So keep in mind too, you have two patients, and primarily you're going to be pumping the heart of the pregnant woman. But chances are you may only be saving her baby as long as you're doing compressions. But there's two lives there. So
Right.
even if you lose
Wow.
one, if you save the other, 20 years ago, there was a traumatic arrest, 20 plus years ago. I want to say out in the Midwest, car accident. There was no hope of getting the mother to the hospital. She had already passed. but they were doing compressions to keep that baby alive.
Wow.
Long story short, there was a medical control physician who instructed paramedics to do a field cesarean section to get the baby out, just for survival. They did. Everybody lost their licenses because it's not within our scope. But 20 plus years later, they get to watch that little kid go to college.
Right. Right.
So it's one of those. Was it worth it? Probably. I don't know. I might do it. If I have a medical control physician saying do it or that baby's going to die, I would consider it. But I also know that it's not within my scope of training. But
Right.
you can do CPR on mom and get her to a facility that could do the emergency C-section.
Right. Right. Wow, that's a whole side of it. Excuse me, that I
It's a
never
lot.
thought about. Yeah, that's okay. Um, I think we covered everything. You are a rock star. Now I want to talk about your business, and okay. And first of all, why did you come up with it? Because you telling me about this before. I'm like going, well, duh, of course that's needed. And so let's tell me how it started, and how you ramped it up and are selling things.
So I used to be an Herbalife drinker. I used to go to those nutrition shops, but ultimately I used to weigh 350 pounds, um, and a lot of my wasted calories were from coffee. The cream, the sugar in it. My daughter introduced me to this place called Brickyard Nutrition. I became very good friends with the owners. They were a young couple. One of the owners was a firefighter and an EMT. I was going there and spending $12 per drink, but it's sugar-free, caffeine-loaded green tea they have a variety of flavors, and I loved them. I also realized I was drinking less coffee, which means I was getting less calories because these for 32 ounces were 20 calories. That's fantastic, and I was doing very well in my weight loss journey. And then they closed because they had a brand new baby. I get it. Do you know what? I would choose the brand new baby over my need for caffeine any day. Um, so I tried to look into ways that I could make my own. And it started off as I was going to go to the same MLM that they used. It was so expensive. Like, in order for me to get enough of their supplies to make one a day for myself for 30 days, it was about $200.
Oh my.
That's crazy. That's wild to me. Um, so then I kind of did the research. I looked at the ingredients list and I found ways that I could do it myself at home. So some natural green tea powder, some guarana seed powder, which is natural occurring caffeine, and it's in higher content than coffee, which then led to lots and lots of math, lots of math,
Hmm.
and buying stevia-based flavors, which Gram Zero offers a large amount of different flavors. And then it's just kind of being like an alchemist, right? I get to make my own recipes and add flavors together to see which ones I like the best. And now we're up to 48 flavors that we carry standard, which is wild to
Yeah.
me because it started with 10 and it is quickly, my husband says it's quickly escalated, because we also just released our fall line because I'm also aware that it's not warm forever in New Hampshire. So I released sugar-free caffeine-loaded hot chocolate mixes in 6 different flavors. I also did chai because I love chai. So we have a sugar-free chai latte, and then we have a sugar-free vanilla chai latte, and they're all less than 30 calories, and that's with a little tiny helping of marshmallows added in.
But they
It's
also have like an energy drink aspect to it.
It does. So I love energy drinks. I do. I love them, but I also have a lot of friends who can't have taurine because they have like mild kidney disease. Um, look, we all love Red Bull, right? We all love rock stars. We all love Alani, but taurine's not good for your kidneys. It's hard for your body to process out. The cool part about guarana seed powder is that there's a minimal side effect with your kidneys, like very minimal. And if you're taking it like one drink a day, you're getting such a low dose that it's not going to have the kidney effect. Taurine, on the other hand, is very hard for your body to get rid of. That's why if you drink too many energy drinks, you end up having GI distress. um, I will tell you that I say at least 2 32-ounce servings of what I make a day, without any GI distress. I will tell you that if I have one full flavored or full strength Red Bull or Rockstar, I can't venture too far from home. Um, but I have a very sensitive stomach too, so it may just be me. Uh, but we're getting the same or comparable energy levels or caffeine levels with the guarana seed powder, which is naturally occurring, with the green tea powder, which is also naturally occurring, with stevia based flavoring. So naturally occurring. The cool part is like I have one flavor that I am locked in on right now, and it's called the locked unit. It's orange strawberry banana. And if you're a child of the late 80s, early 90s, runts. It tastes like a handful of runts. Doesn't even taste like tea. It's lovely. My husband, he was a Red Bull drinker. He would drink three or
Yeah.
four a day.
Oh my.
Hasn't bought a Red Bull in 6 months. And it started with me making them at home. And then I took a couple, I made little packets. I would take them to work. And when a coworker was like, hey, can I try one of those? Which then led to, have you considered trying to sell them? Which led to me to Whatnot, which is a great app that I spend too much money on. But I've got I loaded tea packs and then a loaded hot chocolate and loaded chai. And now we do Stanleys and Frost Buddies on there as well, just to, keep things moving and changing. We did a wild show last Tuesday. I sent out, I should show you the picture of the packages I sent out. It was something like 100+ packages to be
Oh
mailed.
gosh. Yeah, please.
I thought my mail lady was going to beat me to death, but she didn't.
So that's great. Okay, how can people order it? You have a website?
I do have a website. It's called pulsepacksloadedtea.com. If you're on Whatnot, you can also find us on there as well. We do live shows twice a week and we mail within the next day. The website's pretty cool though, because you get to pick your flavors. The shows that we do live, you get a variety of flavors for a low investment amount, money wise, and you get a chance to win some cool cups, which is kind of cool. But yeah, the websites, I'm actually doing more on Whatnot. And I think it's the personal interaction. Like people have to choose to come see you and then you get to talk about your products and they get to see the face that they're buying from. So it gives you that level of trust. But yeah, I love it. Like it's wild. I want to do 2 more flavors. My husband told me absolutely not, because he's my not at will employee right now. So
Okay, that was awesome. Okay, I know you and I have a lot of other things that we're going to be working on together, Boston, and a lot of things, which is so amazing. Anything else on the sudden cardiac arrest side that you can think of that would help?
encourage everybody. I want to encourage everybody to take a CPR class, to not be afraid of those AEDs. And in all honesty, you can have 500 people in Boston just documenting AED locations and nobody would hit the same one twice. There are so many different stores and places that do have access to them, but also getting our presence out there is going to encourage a lot of store owners who are like, hey, so did you find the closest one? Where is it? It may encourage them to get one for their own store.
Absolutely.
Especially if, hey, I haven't found one on the entire block.
And that's part of,
Maybe they can all get in together.
So the Cardiac Crusade volunteers, one of the things I've got are these 4x6 cards that the title is Why Your Business Needs an AED. And it just goes super basic, super simple. Here's why. And, if they don't have one, we'll just leave it for the manager and hopefully they just don't throw away the card, and if one out of 50 buy an AED because of that, then success.
And it's one of those, I think it would also encourage them to talk to each other. Like especially in Boston, you get the high concentration of stores all next to each other. Even if one store that's centrally located in a block wants to purchase one, maybe they can all go in together and they all have access to them.
Yep, absolutely. Have it available.
We understand that they're not cheap. We get that.
Yeah.
But they are necessary. Yep. Sometimes necessary things are costly, but they're worth it.
Very good. Okay, that's a great way to end it. Okay, I look forward to seeing you later in October and connecting. Yes. And we've got a lot of things that we're working on together outside of this conversation. So, Sam, you are a rock star. Thank you so much for doing this episode number 3 with me. And we will talk to you guys later.